Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I will be trying to fix the power scaling of Dragon Ball, since it's a very well-known fact that throughout the story, there has been many cases of massive power creeping, and in most instances, they were unnecessarily big, especially if we take in consideration the story of Dragon Ball as a whole. At least that's my opinion in the matter. Now, in case you don't know what power creeping is, it is a term that is mostly used on video games, but in the context of a fighting-focused story like Dragon Ball, it basically means that the standard of power levels in an ongoing arc has rendered previously introduced characters that hasn't increased their powers, essentially irrelevant to the current plot due to not being strong enough to face these new antagonists. There are a few exceptions to the rule, but this is how usually go in Dragon Ball, for better or worse. We will be using this tier maker, which has pretty much every character in the story, and it's also ordered by arcs, which is very helpful. It was done by Vika077. I will leave the link for this tier maker on the description of the video if you want to check it out. First of all, it is necessary to understand that changing the power levels means that in some cases, there would be inevitable changes over the actual plot, although I want to avoid this as much as possible, but whatever change to the actual plot we do, I will try to explain it the best I can in a way that makes sense story-wise. So without further ado, let's start. The first thing I want to do is to go through every single version of Goku and use them as a benchmark of power for each tier. With versions I mean every time Goku increased his powers substantially in the story. So naturally, the first version of Goku is the one from the beginning of the story, specifically, the pre-Roshi training. This one goes into the tier 1 of power level. Now, let me briefly explain what is my logic behind these tiers. I decided to use the already existing concept of numeric power levels used in the story, especially during the Saiyan and Namek arc, but I reworked it in such a way that makes it way easier to understand. My reasoning behind this change is that in theory, portraying the power levels as numbers in the story helps the viewers of the show to understand, in a simple way, the strength of a character, but as we all know, in the actual story these numeric power levels quickly increased in numbers to exorbitant levels, which not only makes it harder for the viewer to understand them, but also contributes to the notion of a massive ongoing power creeping in the story. This problem is very present during the Freezer fight, and in my opinion, this power creeping wouldn't be so bad if the story actually ended during the Freezer arc, but as we all know, it didn't end there, and the power levels just kept increasing and increasing, which I believe is one of the reasons the reading of power levels in the story went away, at least for the most part. So, with that in mind, I created a power level range from 0 to a maximum of 100, which includes the power levels of characters that aren't fighters, all the way up to the strongest characters in the entire story. With this, the power levels are not just more readable, but also inherently decreases the power creeping, and as a bonus, we can also classify the characters that belongs to certain range of power level in a simple way that makes sense even inside the story. I will explain this more as we go through each tier. So as we said before, the beginning of the story's Goku belongs to the tier 1, which is the range of 1 to 9 of power level. On this tier, we will include any character that is a fighter but doesn't know how to use their own vital power / ki, so we will name this tier the following. Fighter, no ki user. So feat-wise, we know that Goku at the time was already incredibly strong for human standards, possessing borderline superhuman's capabilities, plus, he also was trained by Grandpa Gohan, so he knows martial arts, although, he is still unable to control his ki. Because of these reasons, I would put this Goku around the high end of tier 1, maybe around a power level of 8 or 9. Now we are going to go through other characters introduced during the beginning of the story, to be more specific, before the 21st World Tournament arc, and we will use the previously mentioned Goku as the benchmark for comparison. Bulma, despite being a genius, she is not a fighter and is just a human, thus belongs to tier 0. I want to clarify that tier 0 does not mean that the character has a power level of literal 0, but instead, its level is between 0.1 and 0.9, meaning that is not a relevant power to any fighter. Puar, Oolong, the turtle, and Lunch belongs to tier 0 as well. Lunch, in her blonde form, also belongs there, although she can still be dangerous to low-level fighters from rank 1 due to her firearms. Pilaf and his gang belongs to tier 0. We will be ranking their robots later. Yamcha, during the beginning of the show, was exceptionally strong, but not as much as Goku, but I think he is still capable of beating him, probably 3 or 4 times out of 10. Krillin, in the other hand, was also weaker than Goku, but he was still strong enough to be considered a disciple by Master Roshi. After all, Krillin was a monk that trained in a monastery for many years. Krillin, in terms of speed, didn't seem too far off from Goku, although, in terms of physical strength and endurance, there seems to be a larger difference. Krillin may be able to beat Goku 2 or 3 times out of 10. Chi-Chi as a kid was actually really strong, being able to kill a dinosaur in one strong attack and also being able to compete with Kid Goku to some extent, although she was still knocked out by Yamcha pretty easily. But to be fair, at this point of the story, the manga was way more focused in comedy than in actual action. In any case, I will put Chi-Chi at tier 1 around Krillin's power level. After all, Chi-Chi is the daughter of the relatively powerful Ox King, who, by the way, belongs to tier 10, corresponding the power level range of 10 to 19. This is because, beginning of the show, Goku was weaker than Ox King, and also, we need to remember that the latter was trained by Master Roshi before. In my opinion, if I could make a small change in the story around this time, I would introduce the Ki power system during the first appearances of Ox King and Master Roshi. Next, we have the Goku from the 21st World Tournament arc. This is after training with Master Roshi. Although, I am pretty sure the concept of Ki wasn't introduced till later in the story, I think a very good change would be to introduce, at least the basics, of the Ki power system during the training of Roshi with Goku and Krillin. Considering this revision, we will establish that this Goku learned how to harness his Ki. However, he still lacks the technique and skill of a true master like Master Roshi. Nevertheless, he compensates for most of this deficit with his raw power. With this being said, this Goku belongs to tier 10, with a power level around 11 to 13. Since we just mentioned Roshi, I think it's time to rank him. During the 21st tournament, Master Roshi, also known as Jackie Chun, was the strongest character introduced so far, being a master of martial arts, and as we established before, a master in the usage of the power of Ki. He was still quite a bit stronger than Goku. Despite that at times it seemed somewhat even between the two, we gotta remember that Goku was able to push Jackie Chun at his limits because of his accidental transformation into his Ozaru form. If it wasn't for that, Goku would have lost against the Thunder Shock attack of Jackie Chun. Talking about the Ozaru, Jackie Chun had to destroy the moon with a full-powered Kamehameha to transform Goku back to normal, making this scene a very infamous one due to a lot of people arguing that this was an outlier feat, which honestly I would normally agree, but I think I found a way to make this feat legitimate. By using the buff form of Roshi, or also called full power form, we can establish that his power increases to an extraordinary level, enough to potentially beat relatively very strong opponents, but as a huge drawback, this form can only be used by Roshi for a few seconds before getting tired, just enough to release a full-powered Kamehameha. With this, we can properly explain the ability of Roshi to blow up the moon without breaking the power scaling by limiting his buff form, to only be really effective against mindless opponents such as an Ozaru Beast and not really useful against other opponents such as Tien or King Piccolo, despite the huge power that buff form Roshi has. Try to remember these details about Roshi, because we are going to talk about it again way later. Now that I explained all of that, I will put Roshi from the 21st World Tournament to tier 10 ahead of Goku and Ox King. In the other hand, if we just consider the raw power of full-powered Roshi form, I have to put him at tier 20. I will explain this tier later. Now is time to go through the other participants of the tournament at that time. First we have the bullies of Krillin from the monastery. They should be low-level fighters from tier 1. Then we have the quarter-finalists of the tournament: Ranfan, Bacterian, Jiren, and Yamcha. To me, all of them are around mid to high-level fighters from tier 1. About Yamcha, despite training for the tournament, he hasn't learned how to use his Ki yet. Although, let's say he has reached the power level of Goku before his Roshi training. There is also the semi-finalist Krillin. I would put him at low-level fighter from tier 10, since he has learned how to use Ki, but is still not proficient enough. Before I forget, I will put Goku's Ozaru form into tier 20, being slightly superior than Master Roshi buff form. The next semi-finalist is Nam, and despite that it was never stated in the story that he knows about Ki, I would feel good about establishing Nam as a Ki user. After all, he gave Goku a good fight. I think Nam being around Goku's power level is completely fine. With this, we are done for the characters from the 21st World Tournament, and for fun, let's go quickly through the most relevant characters and give them a more exact power level. Yamcha has a power level of 9. Krillin has a power level of 10. Nam has a power level of 11. Goku has a power level of 12. Ox King has a power level of 14. Jackie Chun has a power level of 15. Jackie Chun in his buff, full power form, has a raw power level of 20, although it has a lot of drawbacks. Ozaru form Goku has a power level between 20 and 21, although similarly to Rashi, has some weaknesses. Next, we are going to go from the Red Ribbon Army arc to the 22nd World Tournament arc. Once again, we are going to rank Goku from these arcs, although arguably, there could be two versions. The first one, the post-Master Karen training Goku. The second one, the 22nd World Tourney Goku. To me, the one with more narrative importance is the post-Karen training. For those that do not remember, Goku almost got killed after his fight against Tao Pai Pai, but after training with Karen, Goku was able to go toe-to-toe against the assassin, and was even able to beat him. The next increase of power from Goku was after going on his own two adventures before the 22nd World Tourney, although in my opinion, the increase of power shouldn't have been too big, at least in comparison to his previous power-up. In any case, both versions of Goku belong to Tier 10. With the first one having a power level around Rashi from the 21st World Tournament. And the Goku from the 22nd World Tourney finally surpassing his master in power, although not by a huge amount. Now, let's go through the characters from the Red Ribbon arc. Starting with the Red Ribbon Colonel, Silver, who was beaten by a pre-Karen training Goku pretty single-handedly. He belongs to Tier 1 with a power level between of 6 and 8. Next we have the General White, which strikes me more as a commander than a fighter. I put him in Tier 1 with a power level of 4 or 5. Then we have the subordinates of General White. Starting with Major Metallotron, who was a robot and gave Goku a run for his money. The latter even stated that Metallotron should have participated in the 21st World Tournament due to his power. I put the Major in Tier 10. With a power level around of Goku during the 21st World Tourney, maybe around 11 and 12. Next we have General White's second in command, the Ninja Murasaki, also known as Major Purple. He was no match to Kid Goku, so I put him in Tier 1. There is also Android 8, that due to his very peaceful attitude, he never showed the true extent of his powers, but I think it is at least implied that he may be stronger than the 21st World Tourney's Goku. Assuming he is fighting with everything he have, I give Android 8 a power level around Goku after the Tao Pai Pai fight. It may seems like too much, but I am a bit biased towards Android 8, but also is good to make some precedent about the potential of androids. Moving forward, we have General Blue from the Red Ribbon Army. It was stated that General Blue was the strongest officer from the Red Ribbon Army, and he certainly had better showings of power than the previous officers, especially considering Blue's psychic powers. General Blue belongs to Tier 10, with a power level around Goku's from the 21st World Tourney. As an extra, the average human soldier, such as a Red Ribbon soldier or a Earth's Army soldier, they have an average power level of 1. Now, putting aside the Red Ribbon Army for a moment, let's rank the chief of a village located in the sacred lands of Korin. I'm talking about Bora. This character was one of the strongest humans introduced so far, being able to defeat a bunch of soldiers, brush off bullets from his body without harm, and was able to throw Goku and Yajirobe's bodies above the clouds with his raw strength. I think it is fair to say that feat-wise, Bora was physically stronger than Goku's pre-Rashi training. Because of that, I will rank Bora at Tier 10, around the power level of the likes such as Nam, and we will also establish that Bora knows how to use his ki to enhance his body. Naturally, the next character we need to rank is the first antagonist that defeated Goku so bad that forced him to obtain a power-up through training. I am talking about the legendary mercenary, Tao Pai Pai. The assassin didn't just kill with ease the previously mentioned Bora, but also was able to nearly kill Goku in a straight fight. I find Tao Pai Pai a bit tricky to compare against other powerful characters at the time, such as Master Roshi, because, if we go by showings, Goku was outclassed in combat by Tao Pai Pai, and in comparison, the 21st tournament's Roshi fight against Goku was a lot more even, and it doesn't really sit well with me putting Tao Pai Pai ahead in power than Master Roshi. At the very least, I want to put that version of Roshi and Tao Pai Pai at the same power level. But now we gotta explain why the fight between Jackie Chun and Goku didn't went as one-sided, such the Tao Pai Pai fight, despite both Master Roshi and the assassin being relative in power. One of the reasons I can come up with is that Roshi was still in a rusty state during the 21st World Tournament, since he most likely hasn't been fighting regularly for years. In the other hand, Tao Pai Pai can be considered being in his prime, probably constantly fighting and killing relative strong opponents due to being a hitman. Another reason is that the context of the fights were really different. Roshi had every intention to win his battle against Goku in the tournament, but even then, it was still just a competition, a friendly fight between both contestants, and also, Roshi wanted to test the newfound skills and fighting capabilities of his disciple Goku. In the other hand, Tao Pai Pai never had any intention to have a competitive fight against Goku. Instead, he went straight to the kill from the very beginning. Finally, it can also be argued that since Goku was trained by Grandpa Gohan, who in turn was trained by Master Roshi, meant that Goku was a lot more accustomed to compete against Jackie Chun's fighting style. Meanwhile, Tao Pai Pai's fighting style and even abilities such as the Dadanpa completely blindsided Goku. After Goku was defeated by Tao Pai Pai, our hero trained with the cat, Master Korin, who, by the way, belongs to Tier 20, possessing a power level superior than Tao Pai Pai, and even Goku at the time. In the story, Goku after training with Korin was portrayed as significantly stronger than Tao Pai Pai, and I think this is one, if not the first early sign of power creeping, and the best thing to do is to start fixing this from the get-go, before it becomes a problem, even though, at this point of the story, is not completely necessary. So, if Tao Pai Pai has a power level of 16, then let's give Goku post-Korin training a power level of 17, still stronger to the point that Goku could beat Tao Pai Pai somewhat comfortably, if all the circumstances of the fight are favorable for him. So what are these circumstances that favored Goku? Well, as a starter, Goku is highly motivated to crush Tao Pai Pai due to his previous evil actions. Is reasonably to say that Tao Pai Pai was caught off guard by the considerable increase of power by Goku in such a short amount of time. Also, the assassin hasn't probably fought anyone with a similar power for a long time. All of these factors did negatively impact Tao Pai Pai's fighting performance against a very confident Goku. There is also the fact that Goku should be more accustomed to Tao Pai Pai's fighting style. With all of that being said, I would say that Goku would beat Tao Pai Pai 7 or even 8 times out of 10 if the circumstances were the same as their rematch fight. But if Tao Pai Pai were fighting in optimal conditions, I would give Goku the win of 6 fights out of 10. We have only a few more characters left from the Red Ribbon Army arc, starting with their leader, Commander Red, who's not really a fighter, so he goes to Tier 0. Lastly, we have the final antagonist of the Red Ribbon Army arc, Staff Officer Black. In the original story it was implied that Black was the strongest Red Ribbon soldier, but still was no match for Goku post-Korin training, so putting him around the power level of General Blue seems about right. There is also the battle jacket used by Officer Black, which increases his fighting capabilities, but still, it wasn't enough to beat Goku. Although, apparently, the battle jacket from the Dragon Ball Special's Path of Power was portrayed as an actual, powerful threat for our heroes. Personally, I enjoy the Path of Power's portrayal more, so in this revision of the power scaling, I will rank Black Officer's battle jacket power slightly below than that of Goku post-Korin training. I think that's a fair upgrade from the original story, and it shouldn't change too much, besides making the Goku's fight against Black more challenging. Now, before we get into the 22nd World Tournament, let's go through the Uranai Baba Tournament and its participants. Krillin and Yamcha seems to not have increased their powers substantially since the 21st World Tournament, so they stay the same. In case of Urabai Baba's fighters, Fangs the Vampire and the Invisible Man strike me more as gimmicky fighters, relying on their special abilities more than their raw power. For that, I rank them at Tier 1 with a power level around 6 or 9 at most. Next, we have the Mummy, whose power was stated to be possibly higher than Goku during the 21st World Tournament, which seems fine to me. The second strongest Uranai Baba's fighter was Spike, the Devil Man, whose power I would personally rank around Tao Pai Pai's, and I would establish that he lacks martial arts skills and relies, mostly, in his very powerful special ability that allows Spike to injure and even kill any opponent with negative thoughts. Fortunately for Goku, he didn't have any negative thought in his mind during his fight against Devil Man. And finally, the strongest, although temporal fighter of Urabai Baba, is no other than Grandpa Gohan, whose power level was almost, if not equal to Goku's at the time, so I rank Gohan at the same power level. Now, we finally got to the 22nd World Tournament arc, where most secondary characters increase their power level. Krillin managed to reach semi-finals after beating Shiatsu and gave Goku a decent fight despite the difference of power. To me, it's fair to rank Krillin slightly ahead than Goku's during the 21st World Tournament. Yamcha also increases his power level to a decent level, being able to reach tier 20, but personally, I still put him slightly below Krillin's power level. I think it is fair to say that Master Roshi also increases his power level because he has been training Krillin and Yamcha regularly as a preparation for the tournament, meaning that he isn't as rusty as he was as Jackie Chun during the previous tournament. I rank Roshi at the same power level as Goku's post-Korin training, especially considering he gave Tien a very good fight during the semi-finals. Although Goku became stronger for the 22nd World Tournament, I dare to say the improvement shouldn't have been too massive, especially considering that prior to the tournament, Goku was more into the adventures than just constant training. Or at least, that's what are we going to establish, to avoid any unnecessary power creeping. Now, let's go through the new introduced characters from this arc. Starting with King Chappa, who was stated to be a previous winner of a martial arts world tournament, and he won it without being even touched by his opponents during the fights. Although King Chappa was outclassed by Goku, he at least didn't lose in a single attack, so consider everything, I rank him at rank 20, around the power level of Goku's during the 21st World Tournament, maybe even slightly below. Next, we have Shiatsu, who I rank around Krillin's power level, although I can see him being above him too. In any case, he still lost his fight against Krillin. There is also Master Shin, who shouldn't be too far off in terms of power than the likes of Tao Pai Pai and Master Roshi. So I rank Master Shin above Tao Pai Pai and below Roshi from the 22nd tournament. After all, Master Shin did survive a direct Kamehameha from Roshi. Finally, we have Tien, who, at this time, was the strongest rival of Goku, being able to beat Master Roshi, and won the 22nd World Tournament against Goku. Tien deserves to be ranked at the same power level as Goku's at the time. We now are at the last two arcs before reaching Dragon Ball Z, and from this point, we are going to start seeing bigger changes on the established power levels in the story, but before that, we gotta give a classification to the Tier 20. If we analyze the characters we have in Tier 20, so far, we have multiple masters of martial arts, and as we established before, key users such as Master Roshi, Master Shin, Master Korin, Don Pai Pai, Grandpa Gohan, Ox King, and as we going to see later, Master Mutato belongs in this Tier 2. So considering all of this, I would like to classify Tier 20 as the tier of Masters of Ki. Now, let's start right away with the King Piccolo arc. In a flashback, the master of both Roshi and Shin was introduced. We learn that Mutato fought King Piccolo, but lost easily against him during their first fight, but in the last battle after training and becoming stronger, Master Mutato managed to seal King Piccolo with the Mafuba technique, although at the cost of his own life. Considering all of this, I think it is fair to say that Master Mutato was really strong, especially during his final fight against King Piccolo, considering that he was able to seal him and he wasn't defeated easily like the last time. Next, we have two of the sons of King Piccolo, starting with the weakest of them, Symbol, whose power wasn't really shown much since he got killed in his very first fight against another recently introduced fighter, called Yairab, who shouldn't be too behind of Goku's and Tien's power level at the time. Because of this, I rank Symbol around the power level of Goku's during the 21st World Tournament. Tambourine is the next son of King Piccolo, who was actually created with the purpose to fight strong opponents, and he was able to kill multiple fighters from previous tournaments, including Krillin. Tambourine was also able to beat Goku, but only when our hero was tired and hungry due to the World Tournament. I would like to put Tambourine powers superior than the likes of Tao Pai Pai, but not by a huge amount. After all, Tambourine still got beaten by Goku after he recovered his strength and with full intention to kill him, and as we established before, Goku post-Korin training isn't too behind in power in comparison to 22nd World Tournament's Goku. Next, we have King Piccolo, who was two versions, the old age one and the young one after wishing to regain his youth. The old age's King Piccolo was able to nearly kill Goku in battle and essentially killed Shatsu and even Master Roshi. King Piccolo deserves to be ranked at tier 20, surpassing the tier of key masters, not only because of who he has defeated, but also it would make narrative sense, since King Piccolo is stated to be capable of conquering the entire planet Earth, which we actually see later in the story. Let's classify right away the 20th tier as the World Conqueror tier. The characters that belongs here are fighters that have the potential to conquer a world by themselves, even a relative weak one such as Earth. We will give more details about this tier eventually. So, Goku Ozaru form belongs to tier 20, which makes sense to me, considering that even low-level Saiyans are capable of conquering weak worlds by using their Ozaru forms. And as we stated before with Master Roshi in his buff form, he has the raw power to be able to destroy a moon and presumably enough power to blow up a big chunk of a planet, but naturally, this form of Roshi has too many drawbacks to be used reliably in a fight. I would give old King Piccolo, Roshi in his buff form, and Goku's Ozaru form a power level of 20, although obviously, it doesn't need to be exactly 20, for example, old King Piccolo could have a power of 20.5554, Ozaru Goku a power of 20.182, and so on. Next, we have the young version of King Piccolo, who himself stated to be infinitely more powerful than his old self. But in terms of power scaling, was this really necessary? Old age King Piccolo was already stronger than every other character at the time, making him way more powerful in his young state. It's just unnecessary power creeping. So, let's say that in terms of raw power, young and old King Piccolo are about the same, but young King Piccolo have way better stamina and also more latent potential to increase his own power level by training. King Piccolo saying that he is infinitely more powerful in his young state, it is just hyping himself out of proportions, which to be fair, is not rare in Dragon Ball. So, if we want to be more specific, let's say, old King Piccolo have a power level of 20.5 and young King Piccolo have a power level of 20.8. Next, we have the new son of King Piccolo after becoming young again. This new child's name is Drum and is the strongest son so far. Drum fought against Tien and was able to beat him quite easily in the story, and if we take that into consideration, he should be at power level 20, which obviously wouldn't make sense, considering that we established that King Piccolo have that power level, so we gotta make a change here. So let's give Drum a power level of 18, the same as Tien. Now, let's compare the original fight with our own revision of the fight using the reworked power levels. In the original battle, Tien intended to fight King Piccolo, but the supposed demon created Drum to fight for him instead. Tien held his own for a bit, but was quickly disposed by Drum. Eventually Tien had to be saved by Goku. So in our revision, Tien have no other choice to fight Drum, but he realizes that the longer the battle drags on, the less chances he will have against King Piccolo, so he decides to rush in and kill Drum the fastest he can by using only assassin moves that he learned from Master Shin without using any of his other special techniques, so he can save it for the true enemy, King Piccolo. This proved to be a huge mistake, because Drum doesn't hold back at all, and he has a similar power level as Tien, and additionally, he has a different physiology than humans have, so Tien's assassination moves don't work nearly as well in Drum. Despite Tien trying to finish off his enemy, Drum was able to outlast the ruthless attacks of Tien, and got the upper hand against him, eventually beating Tien into submission, although the monster still got decently tired and damaged. In any case, it is fair to say that Tien would have beaten Drum if he wasn't holding back. Just before he can finish him off, Goku joins the battle and saves Tien, and consequently proceeds to kill in just a few hits the worn-out Drum. So, with this new revision of events, we essentially keep the same plot as the original story, but we give a better fighting showing by Tien, and we avoid unnecessary power creeping at the same time. We have only left Goku's power level after he drank the Ultra Divine Water, unlocking his current potential, and it's only fair to rank him at tier 20 with a power level of 20, the same as King Piccolo. Goku's fight against King Piccolo was pretty even, although there was one moment where King Piccolo used a very powerful ki attack that could have beaten Goku, but he was saved by Tien, who used his flying ability, which at the time was one of his specialties. With this, we get a very good payoff for Tien, rewarding him for not using any of his special abilities against Drum. Otherwise, King Piccolo could have taken in consideration the flying ability from Tien and use his ki blast from a different angle, beating Goku in the process. Although Goku ended up killing King Piccolo, it was a reminder for him that although he is very powerful, he needs to improve his skills and ki abilities, which he will do during his training with Kami-sama. We finally got to the last arc before reaching Dragon Ball Z, and we will start right away by changing some bits of the story, which can help to alleviate the power creeping. In this case, I would like to make the effects of the Ultra Divine Water that Goku drank to unlock his potential only temporal. My reasoning for this is to avoid making our previous antagonist, King Piccolo, irrelevant in power so freaking fast. In case you don't remember, in the original story, after Goku beats King Piccolo, he immediately went to Kami-sama to train and become even stronger, and we are then introduced to Mr. Popo, who is just a servant for Kami-sama, and also demonstrated to be stronger than Goku's at the time and by extension, King Piccolo. Mr. Popo even stated that Kami-sama is way stronger than himself, and he could have defeated King Piccolo easily. Putting aside all the plot implications of why Kami-sama didn't just deal with King Piccolo himself, I found unnecessary that, immediately after the strongest antagonist by far at this point of the story, was already so behind in power. It is understandable that Kami-sama, also known as God of the Earth, was stronger than the supposed King of Demons, Piccolo, but we all know that both Kami-sama and King Piccolo were one and the same before splitting from their original body, and they weren't exactly a divine creature either, but an alien. So, going back to my previous change about the Ultra Divine Water, we will establish that its effects are only temporal, and that Goku's power was already decreasing considerably during his first encounter with Mr. Popo. So let's say Goku had a power level of 18 and Mr. Popo a power level of 19, who, by the way, isn't just stronger than Goku, but also way more skilled in reading his opponent's movements by sensing their ki. Now, I will rank Kami-sama to tier 20 with a power level of 21, higher than King Piccolo's but not by a large margin, and also, we are going to establish that due to the old age of Kami-sama, he has low stamina, similarly to King Piccolo, before wishing for his youth. After these changes, the story goes as usual. Goku trains for 3 years with Kami-sama, and is able to increase his power considerably, not only slightly surpassing his own power level during the King Piccolo battle, but also increasing his combat skills and ki control a lot more. So, Goku's during the 23rd World Tournament have a power level of 21, the same as Kami-sama, but he lacks the drawback of low stamina, and he is also similarly skilled to the Green God. Naturally, Goku wasn't the only one to increase his power considerably. Krillin, Yamcha, Shatsu, and Tien also increased their power by training during the 3 years previous to the World Tournament, but the increases are not the same as Goku's, since our hero has been training with God. Let's go through the power levels of the participants during the 23rd World Tournament, starting with Shatsu, who was beaten by Tao Pai Pai in his cyborg body, so let's give Shatsu a power level of 16. Tao Pai Pai in his cyborg form have a power level of 19, but let's establish that the assassin lost most of his skills he previously had in his original body, so he was still beaten easily by Tien. Tien has a power level of 19, if we want to be more specific, a power level of 19.5 or more, very close to 20, but not quite reaching that state yet. The improvements in power may not seem huge for Tien, but we gotta remember, he was also developing new special abilities, such as the cloning technique. We have another character we haven't seen in a while, Shishi, who managed to get to the quarter-finals before losing to Goku, so she certainly has considerable power. A power level of 16 seems fine to me, making Chi-Chi stronger than her father. Krillin also showed a considerable increase of power and skill, but naturally he was still not able to beat Piccolo Jr. during the quarter-finals. Seems fair to give Krillin a power level of 18. We also have Yamcha, who lost to Kami-sama, who was possessing a weak human body to participate in the tournament. Let's give Yamcha a power level of 18, similar to Krillin's. Talking about Kami-sama inside the human body, he should still be pretty strong at tier 20, but with a lower power level of just 20, instead of 21 as in his real body. Finally, we have Piccolo Jr. with a power level of 21, surpassing King Piccolo. So, with these reworked power levels during this arc, I think everything should go as it went in the original story. Maybe the fact that Kami-sama's power level is the same as Piccolo can be questioned a bit, but as we established before, Kami-sama lacks the stamina to be in a long-term battle against the likes of Piccolo Jr. It also can be argued that both Kami-sama and Goku could have fought Piccolo at the same time, but this, even in the original story, was rejected by Goku, who wanted a fair one-on-one battle against Piccolo. With that, we have finally reached the end of OG Dragon Ball, and next part of this video, we are going to start with Dragon Ball Z, which will be way more challenging, considering that the power creeping increases a lot more, with introduction of transformations and multipliers. Still, I think it is an exciting challenge, and I am very happy with what we have done so far. I will leave the tier maker's image and also a notepad with the power of all the characters we mentioned during this video, and even some extras, in case you want to check it out. Thank you for watching my video, and I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Smiley face.